Hey there, it's Tony from Wealthfront. I work here, and I love talking about everything money. I talk to clients every single day about topics I'd love to share with more people. So that's why going forward, we'll be here giving you the content that we think everyone should and deserves to know. Make sure you hit subscribe to follow along. All right, so today I'm here to talk about an issue that most of us face at some point in our lives. Should I pay off my debt or should I invest? If you're anything like me, you had debt to pay off way before you could even start to think about investing. And debt can feel uncomfortable and sometimes completely crushing. It can even start to feel like a chokehold on your financial goals. It's super easy to feel like your real life can't really start until you get rid of that debt that's weighing you down. Many of us are taught that debt is something to feel shame about, despite how common it is. Even though we logically know that debt is not symptomatic of some moral failing, we still feel like it's a burden. It's a sign that we aren't yet our best selves. But look, debt happens and it's not the end of the world. For me, this led to years of wondering how I should approach the question, should I pay off my debt or should I invest? At one point, I had $25,000 in credit card debt, $50,000 in student loans, and had an average salary living in one of the most expensive cities in the world, San Francisco. How did I find myself just 5 years later, debt-free and with enough savings to buy a home? Let's talk about it. For many of us, you may find it surprising to hear that in certain situations, it could be smarter to let your debt kind of chill for the moment, opting instead to invest the extra cash. Here are some basic factors though. Number one, make sure you have enough cash saved. Take down high interest debts first and factor in the emotional burden. All right, so cash savings. Before investing even comes into play, you have to save up enough cash for your emergency savings. This is typically 3 to 6 months worth of savings set aside in a liquid savings account, accruing some kind of interest. If you need it, you can access it right away. Don't bypass this one, because if you don't have this ready and you don't have your emergency savings set up, and then all of a sudden you lose your job, you end up going back into debt in many of those situations. Number two, rates. You only need to know two numbers when making this call: the interest rate you're paying on your debt and the rate of return on your expected investment. If the expected rate of return on your investment is higher than your debt's interest rate, you might prioritize investing. If the interest rate on your debt is actually higher, you should pay down that debt. Here's an example that many of us face at some point: credit card debt. Most credit cards charge around, let's say 18%, and you're definitely not going to beat that investing in the market long term. In this case, no matter what, you need to pay down that debt before investing. Absolutely. The more common case that many of us see right after college is student debt. So you have student debt right around 5%, let's say, and then the average return on a diversified portfolio is right around 8% annualized. This makes the decision a little harder. You can make a little more money in investing, right? But does that really make up for the burden of the debt? Probably not. And in this case, you may want to consider paying down debt while setting aside a little bit of money to invest regularly. Now there's a caveat here. If your student loans are currently on pause through the federal government's forbearance program and you're not accruing any interest, this might be a good time to get ahead on saving and start investing. That's another factor you may want to consider. Number three, the emotional burden. If your debt is affecting your overall peace of mind in a way that it's just weighing you down constantly, this argument of interest versus return doesn't matter. You should not feel obligated to weigh any factor in this decision over your mental health. The peace of mind you'll achieve in paying down your debt will likely far outweigh any extra returns you could make up for on investing. In a budgetary toss-up, no one can fault you for defaulting to a policy of prioritizing paying down your debt over making new investments. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise when it comes to this factor. In my case, my wife and I a few years ago decided to pay down our student debt before investing any more money. It just seemed like it was weighing us down every time we talked about money. We knew we wanted to buy a home, we had big plans, but it always felt like it was unattainable until we focused on student loan debt and paid that down. Even though we certainly could have made more money investing the interest that we had saved, neither of us regretted it one bit. Sometimes this decision comes down to a little more than a rational set of numbers. So, to sum it all up, deciding between paying down debt and investing can be summarized in 3 key points. Make sure you build an emergency fund, factor in the interest rate you're paying versus the potential returns, but don't underestimate the power of the emotional burden. So if you want to dig into this more, we'll link some additional resources for you below. Like, subscribe, comment. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening. This is Tony from Wealthfront. We'll see you next time.